Alright everyone, today we are going to replace the clutch on a Honda XR650R model year 2000, excuse me. And we are going to go through the procedures. First off, I want to go through a couple things you're going to need. One, of course, obvious, a clutch. These are the clutch friction plates and clutch plates. I have already pre-soaked them in synthetic 2050 oil. It's an EBC. Also a EBC heavy-duty clutch spring set. I'll be going over those. If you have one, a factory manual. You can also have them on your tablet. It's good for torque values and all that. I have a Wolfman tool bag. This is what I carry with me all the time. It's called my Possibles Kit for possible breakdowns. It has all the tools I need to work on this bike along with the other bikes I might take. This is kind of a universal kit. I use it for my Buell. I use it for the Honda VFR. Use it for the Honda XRs. And I also have another Possibles kit here. This is a Condor TNT bag. And I've got different miscellaneous tools that wouldn't fit in here, along with some glues and epoxies and quick steel and radiator stop leak and some extra throttle cables and clutch cable. And of course, I got jets and everything for rejet in case we have to rejet it on the side of the road. So I'm using only this kit because I want to show that you can repair this bike pretty much anywhere in any condition on any surface. But the only things I have added here, I do have red rags, which I'll have. There's the oil that I'll be using, along with some brake clean, which you don't really need. I'm just going to do it for some additional cleanup. And I have a torque wrench right here. So the torque wrench is not something you'd have with you. You'd have to just kind of do it by feel, and when you get to some place you could retorque everything. So these are all the items needed to replace the clutch on an XR650R. It'll probably work on a lot of different wet clutch systems, dirt bikes, XR400s, CRFs, that kind of stuff. So let's get to it. A Honda XR, it's a dry sump system. You have one drain plug here, and then you have the main drain plug here. Right there. So we'll be changing the oil first, and then we'll get into the clutch. And if you notice, I put some aluminum foil right there. Why? So that way it doesn't drain all over everything. This requires a number 12. Number 12, Honda came in the kit. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Let that drain out completely. This bike gets run on-road, off-road, anywhere. I want to take good care of it. When you're just riding around the street, I go 1,500, 2,000 miles. Make sure your copper gasket is still good. Alright, I think we got it all. Grab your number 12 again. It's one of those you don't want to over tighten. If you've ever seen the movie Blazing Saddles, you'll see a guy named Mongo. Big tough guy. He only knows one thing, full blast. So Mongo would be like, tighten this thing down till you strip the frame. We're just going to give it mini Mongo, about right there. There is a torque value for that. I've never used a torque wrench because if I'm changing oil sometimes on a trip, I'm on the side of the road or in a parking lot, you get a feel for it. It's all by feel. So number 12, there we go. Alright, that one's drained. Now let's move over to the engine. Alright, so we have this right here. Underneath the shifter is the main engine case drain plug. It is a number 19. You gotta be careful, there will be a copper washer. Okay, now we've drained all the oil. Time to put the drain plug back in. And then we'll remove the aluminum foil. I just put it in a little bit right there to stop any last leakage. Take this out, and there we go. A little bit of aluminum foil saves all this from getting oily. Okay, now we're going to replace the clutch. And with replacing the clutch, you're going to take these bolts off right here around the outside. You'll need a number 8 for all these bolts going around the outside edge here. So let's go through that. If I find one that's a different size, I may put it in a special place and I'll put it back in the hole, just so we know. So far, they're all the same size. Oh man. Now, look at there. See how that one's a long one? There is where you get messed up because you could put it back in the wrong hole. So I'll put that back in the hole right here when I'm done. Alright, there is one clutch assembly. Here is your gasket, and you can see right there where the gasket was smashed for the previous owner, and that's why it was leaking there and running down. So we'll scrape all that out of there. I've got a new gasket. Let's take apart the clutch. So these 4 right here, 10 millimeter. Can you put it in gear on that side for me? Make sure it's in gear because you're going to have to release this. Sometimes if I have to, I could put a, if you don't have any help, I could actually like put a stick through the bottom side of this, so as this tries to rotate this way, it'll stop. So that's one thing you could do if you're by yourself. Okay, there's your clutch bolt, 10 millimeter. There is your clutch spring. We're going to be replacing the springs. I like to use the inside of the cover as a parts container to hold your parts so you don't lose them. Now we'll be replacing the springs with some heavy-duty EBC units from XRs Only. So I'll do those at the end. We'll put that back together. Okay, now we have this outer retainer. You just slip it off carefully. There we go. So there's your outer retainer. It looks in good shape. Not too bad. No breaks, no cracks. Now Here's your clutch friction plates. They come out in sequence. If you look, you'll have a friction plate, and then you'll have a steel clutch plate. And you got to make sure you have them in the same position when they put the new ones back in. So friction, steel plate, friction, steel plate, all the way through. I'm going to bring out the entire unit here. There it is. So you should end on a friction and begin with a friction. And these are in, yeah, they're pretty worn. So there is your old friction plates there. Excuse me, clutch plates. Friction and steel clutch plate. Alright, now that we've inspected everything, it all works good. We're going to get our clutch assembly out and ready to go. And if you notice, these are already in position with the friction, and then a disc, and then friction and disc all the way through. Let me let that drain just a bit. Okay, they go right onto this assembly here. Well, you have to put them on one at a time. You have to get your outer lined up with your inner. There we go. New heavy-duty replacement springs from EBC. Inspect that little inside race to make sure it's in good shape. And then we will put this back on, making sure that the bearing is in place. And we install the spring. I personally prefer the heavy-duty springs for this bike because it has so much torque. You know, you're pushing 60 horsepower, and it's a big thumper, so it's going to give you a lot of torque. Alright, now guys, what I'm doing here is I'm actually taking this and I'm pushing it a little bit because for this new spring it's actually a little bit taller, being brand new. So you push in a bit and then screw in, and make sure you're not cross-threaded, of course. Alright, now I got them to where they're just snug there. There we go. So they're just snug. Now we're going to get the torque wrench out and we will actually torque these down. Okay, this is the adapter I was talking about. It goes from a 1/2 inch drive of the torque wrench to a 3/8 drive which will be used here. In this case, I'm actually going to take the extension off. See how it fits on right there? 3/8. Then I have a torque wrench here. See that? It's a 1/2 inch drive. So that way I can use it to tighten everything up. You do it in a star pattern until you get that bolt just right. And right now you're collapsing the spring and the friction plates against each other, so you're taking out all the air that might be in there. This is crucial because if you over tighten, especially that small bolt, it'll just snap the head right off. And then you'll have hours of drilling and tapping. Looks like we're ready to go onto the gasket. Honda part number 11352-MBN-671. Okay, once you get this all torqued down right here, you have your gasket installed. You're going to reinstall this on there. Now, I do something a little different. I have some, I'm a scuba diver, so I have some scuba diving pure silicone grease that's used in putting O-rings and things together in different first and second stages. I like to put just a hair of it around this gasket, since it's designed for sensitive pieces like first and second stages and on scuba regulators. But it also gives you a really good seal. There we go. Now these three were all exactly the same size, so there's no need to worry about which one goes in which hole. Okay, now we're going to adjust some free play. See, I got a lot of give in here right now. So we have a number 14 right here, and a number 12, good old Honda here, right here. So what I'm going to do, tighten this one up. Just bring up this slack right here. Now, the tricky part is you don't want to over tighten this, and use your fine adjustment at the clutch lever if you have a fine adjustment. I do. I'll show you in a second. But for an initial, it feels pretty good. So we'll tighten that one down. Be careful this bar right here doesn't move over when you're tightening this one, because it'll bring it over. And then we tighten this one right here. There we go. And I'm going to bring that in a little bit. And well, that feels real good. I have about that much free play. I think I'll bring that up a little bit more. There we go. See that? There's an actual measurement in the factory guide. I do it more like by the feel that I like. I like a little bit of free play. That's about maybe an inch. Just bring it in a little bit more. There you go, maybe 3/4 of an inch. Alright, the clutch is installed. The free play we just did. It's adjusted correctly. So, all in all, we're looking real good. What's the one thing we're missing though? Got to put oil in. So we'll do that right now. When you're not replacing the filter, it usually takes right about 1.5 quarts. So we'll meter that out and put in 1.5 quarts. Let's put some oil in here. I'll put in 1 full quart, and then I'll put in 1/4 of a quart, and I can check it very easily. One of the nice things is I have the sight tube right here, so I can tell where my level is all the time, rather than having to actually pull the dipstick. We're coming up on hot temperatures soon, so I'm putting in a 2050. Normally I'd run a 1040 in the winter. Of course, this is Arizona, so it doesn't really get that cool. Clutch has been adjusted, all free play has been adjusted, everything works fine, been test driven. And guys, you are done. So that's the procedures, those are the tools needed. Any questions, just give me a comment. Peace out. About the aluminum foil trick, I'll tell you, that's a good idea right there, because it keeps your bike in the ground from all grungy.
And next, folks, what you do is take this oil and throw it on your neighbor's plants.
We don't want to show them that part. Like me with the chili last night.